behind, and I volunteered to help my friends move some tables for a baby shower tomorrow. That it is very much up in the air.
From last night's discussion.
Oh, hold on. This is Nick Shook from NFL. Anyway,
See, this is roll 3, so we need something to attack 3.
oh, what was I gonna say? Anyway, we gotta get this done quick. Not quick, but like. I gotta go help my friends, then come back here, then record the other podcast. So that's gonna be fun for everybody. Episode week 8 going on. Sorry about that other stream that you're hearing in the background. If you like the football, or you want to talk to somebody who watches football professionally, not me. I guess technically you could say professionally. I've never made a single dime off my podcast. I haven't made a dime off my podcast yet. I've made some app credit on a shitty app that I don't think exists anymore. Yeah. Hold on. Sorry, I'm trying to fix something on my microphone. But yeah, I made some app credit on a shitty app one time. Never made actual money that I could go spend at an American store for currency. But, hold on. But yeah, that's pretty much it. We got to get through this because I go help my friends. They need to move some tables for a baby shower. I'm not going to the baby shower. I'm going to the diaper dandy thing, which is like what the guys go to or whatever, which is dope because nothing makes you feel worse than going to a baby shower and drinking alcohol, knowing that the pregnant woman who's in the building, and usually if you're like friends with people, you're trying to have babies around the same time. So there's like actually, I'm sure there's going to be there's never been a baby shower I've ever went to where like there's never been a baby shower that I've gone to where there has not been a pregnant person other than the person that the baby shower is for is there. I don't think I've ever been to one where there's been less than 3. Not even going to lie to you, bro. What was I going to say? Copy and paste. YouTube right there. That's the YouTube stream. We got to open up Twitch real quick. But yeah, I'm not going to the baby shower. Well, I take that back. I'm not invited to the baby showers the way that I like to phrase it because it makes it seem like I would have been invited if it weren't for this other one. But I'm pumped to go to the guy one, especially since I'm like 100% sure that I'm going to be late. Don't tell my friend Manny. I'm 100% sure I'm going to be late, so I'm going to miss all the games and shit like that. And I'm just going to show up, drop some diapers on a table, and then we're just going to start drinking. Especially considering I have a Quidditch tournament tomorrow. Our first game is at 8 a.m. It's in San Marcos, Texas, which means that your boy has to get up at 5 a.m. And I got some work stuff to do. Afterwards, because your boy also looking for an actual fruitful full-time job. So I'm doing like a lot of side gigs here and there. Man, Nick is like screaming his fucking head off right now. It's crazy. I gotta close him out real quick, but I was trying to support up until I started the show. But yeah, that's what's going down right now. We got a diaper dandy situation going on. I gotta go help, and then in theory, I'm gonna come back here, record another episode of the podcast that's just all sports because, like, honestly, haven't done the regular Broke Boy Sports podcast in like a month or like a month and a week or some shit like that, and it's because things keep coming up on Fridays and everything like that. So it's gonna be an adventure here in the last couple hours, and I'm supposed to be going to my girlfriend's house still, even though she told me not to show up, but something very bad happened to one of her friends, and so I'm just gonna go show up and support. Drake is trending because his new album dropped last night. The Broke Boy Sports Podcast. I gotta also, hold on, let me go to Twitch real quick. Twitch.tv/ Broke Boy Sports is how you find the Twitch account, in case you're wondering. We are getting, slowly but surely, one step closer to actually having a TikTok Live. Got to get to 1,000 followers. Trying to earn that, trying to do my thing. Really am trying to put out consistent stuff, trying to come up with things that I can consistently do that don't take a lot of effort because I need to redirect I need to like spread my energy out across all social media platforms. I can't be all in on TikTok, even though one could argue that being all in on one social media platform does benefit all the other ones. I don't know why. Oh god. So I'm looking at the trending tab right now on Twitter, which, by the way, what an adventure that is, like 90% of the time, am I right? Trying to figure out like why things are popping off the way that they're popping off right now. But one thing is trending. It only has like 4,000 tweets about it, and I have a strange feeling that I know exactly what all 4,000 of the people who are doing those tweets have to say, and it is 100% Hoteps. So boycott the NBA. I just want to point out Kyrie Irving, really interesting thing that he's got going on here, because he got a lot of fans from the anti-vaxxer situation that went on. Remember, where he didn't want to get vaccinated, didn't want to make sure that he was prepared for being able to not catch COVID and shit like that. Then he also now has come out and promoted what many people believe is anti-Semitic rhetoric in the form of a Netflix documentary, or like just a documentary in general that you can find on the internet. It's amazing the times that we live in, where like if you got the camera and you got the time, you can put out anything you want on the internet and make it look like, in some cases, better than studio quality stuff if you got enough talent behind it. And that's the documentary. Have not watched it, not interested in it, mainly because I've heard the Zionism conspiracy theory my entire life. One, because I'm black, and then two, I've read and listened to like a multitude of things about why Zionism isn't a real thing. And in case you were wondering, that's what Kyrie is pushing. It's a form of Zionism where like, oh, everything that we've ever been told is a lie about, everything we've ever been told about human history is a lie. I just like to point out that Jews make up such a ridiculously small percentage of the people on the planet that for them to be able to orchestrate an entire lie about their existence would require the buy-in of billions of other human beings. Whereas if like for instance, like if Indians, like actual people from India, wanted to spread a conspiracy, if every person in India, or like 95% of the people in India, believed the conspiracy theory, most of the world, that would mean it would probably be one of the most predominantly dominant theories and ways of thought in the world, because there are so many people who are either of Indian descent or Indian, right? And that is a factor that goes into it. Just want to point out, this is all like really lazy type shit. Anyway, we're going to talk about the NFL coming up here in a second. If you are at home watching, in the chat, you know what to do. Drop your opinions, drop your hot takes, drop your comments, drop your questions on your team. See if I can help you here a little bit. I've watched every single game from this week in the NFL season. I'm also going to do the thing that I did last week, because now we're past like the first like 5 weeks of the season. So there's a lot of things that teams are doing before that I can just kind of like blase over, because now they're doing it so consistently that it has become their identity for the season. Yeah. Anyway, hop in chat. But yeah, boycott the NBA is trending. It's not good. It's trending for me. It could be trending. It could be something else totally different for everybody else. Ooh. I'm gonna own it. Yeah, we're talking about every single NFL team this week, except the teams that are on a bye, because like I at this point in my life, I can tell you, I honestly, man, there's never been a point now where the bye week has drastically just like erased my brain, essentially. Like, if you don't play on Sunday, I have so much shit to do centered around the NFL and everything like that. I just kind of forget your team exists. You know what I mean? Like, if somebody tells me you're on a bye, I believe them instantaneously. I'm like, oh, I'm sure they were. I wasn't paying attention, but yeah, you know. I want to own it. Twitch. Ooh, hold on. It's not popping up. Ooh, that's not good. Twitch streamer. Hashtag road to affiliate, baby. have to wonder if any of those are going to actually help. Oh, by the way, we're doing the thing again. Like, it's another month, and it's another month of doing this show. It's another month of doing this show and having all the requirements to become affiliate, and then not being able to do it. So, because I don't average 3 concurrent viewers in my stream at any given point, so that's fun for me. Trying to work on it. Don't really know how to get people to watch my Twitch stream on a regular basis, to be honest with you. And honestly, it sounds like I need to like get more into the Twitch community as a whole to find people who are looking for sports talk. Even though there's like 1,000,000,001 sports shows, and I'm not gonna sit here and try and pretend that I do one that's unique or anything like that. But like, I be trying, bro. Like, there's been times where people have hopped into Twitch chat and then like slowly trickled out, because I guess I'm not really out here dealing 100% of the time. Whatever, you know. I totally understand. I'm not everybody's cup of tea. I like to imagine that I'm good at talking about sports, because people like to talk to me about sports. But then again, that could be anybody. But we're gonna figure it out. Oh man, Baldy. Sorry, a guy that I know hasn't posted on Facebook in like 2 years, and he just updated. Like, you got those friends who are like, yeah, I don't really give a shit about social media, and then they all of a sudden just like post their entire life on social media, because that's what one of my friends did. So, yeah, today's his birthday, and a lot of people were like messaging. He's like, oh, I should probably tell people what I'm doing in my life, and I'm like, yeah, maybe just a little bit. All right, man, let's get this show popping, because yeah, we need to get it going. I do need to increase the length of the shows. I'm very aware of that, but because I feel like a lot of what's going on this app is not even on this app, on this website, on this platform, is that there are like so many streamers that are on for hours and hours at a time, so it increases the likelihood that people will be able to find them because they stay on for so long. And, you know, it makes me think that I need to get back into playing video games at least one day a week or some shit like that, which I would be totally down for, especially once I get like a semi-stable job. But as of now, I have to stick to my 3 podcasts that I produce by myself. Those don't take any. Those are not time consuming. Ashton breaks down week 8 of the NFL season, and now here's the part where I spam the system, because there's a way to get tags on certain sites if you just constantly post all of the team names or whatever. Eventually they'll put you in the sports category, even if you're not really drawing that many people. But yeah, week 8. They'll be like, oh look, all these NFL scores, and it says week 8 on it. Must be something going on here. Don't know if it's gonna draw people to listen to my podcast, but hey, I found it very funny. I've tried a new method. For my image of the week. One, I'm waiting a little bit longer in the week to put it out because I get more photo options, because there's a lot of people out there who are very good at editing photos to make them look really cool on TikTok and shit like that. Make them like basically moving photos, or like have them rotate like 180 degrees or some shit like that so it looks like they're moving. But nonetheless, I have also gotten into the habit of like getting away from the NFL music, because I used to use the Fox NFL song, and that's not popping on TikTok. And I will point out, basically, hold on, sorry guys. What else should I put? NFL Twitter. But basically, you got the whole situation where I use a popular song instead of the NFL music, because I thought it'd be cool if I consistently use the NFL music. But I think that may be a move reserved for the people who are like actually popular on the app already. If you're trying to build, obviously you want to use sounds that are, people are searching sounds, which, by the way, if you've ever searched a sound on TikTok, it is crazy annoying. Also, it lets you know how many people are just like stealing the same bit over and over again. Like basically there's just like this echo chamber. When you click on a sound on TikTok, it's like echo chamber of people making the same exact joke in the same exact way, and some people making it in various levels of quality of the same joke. Because like I'm gonna be honest with you, there hasn't been too many times where I clicked on a sound on TikTok and looked at after I've seen the person that came up in my feed, either it be a person I follow or came up on my For You page, the person that comes up in my feed, they make the joke, and then all the other people that make the joke, it's just not as funny. Mainly because I know the punchline, but also because I'm a human being. So if I hear somebody like stealing or like taking the same joke and reciting it as if it's their own, it's not a thing. It's not a thing. Some guy I'm playing tomorrow just messaged me. Hold on. Beep boom peace. Yeah, we got the podcast link pulled up right now, and all I got to do is hit go live, but I'm going to do it after I read this guy's message. But yeah, like TikTok, I changed up the approach a little bit. I got basically the same number. I got the almost exact same number of views, but then like 30 more likes than I did last week. And of course, there's so many things that get involved in terms of like when you post it on TikTok, because that determines the max number of people who are going to see it in the day that it's posted, which is a factor. Anyway. Yeah, so that's pretty much what it came down to. I've been changing that up a little bit. Other than that, I don't really make too much content. Honestly, it probably means I need to get back into doing like workout stuff. People like to see fat people work out because it makes them feel lazy. Like people, man, when I was like losing weight and shit like that, bro. When I was losing weight and shit, man, there would be people in my DMs on Instagram. Like I think this happened like a couple of weeks or a couple of months ago. Some random girl on Instagram was just like, "Hey man, like would love to work out with you." And I'm like, this is very clearly somebody trying to flirt with me kind of deal. Anyway, that was a new experience for me personally. And of course it was immediately shut down. I was like, like if you ever need any workout tips or advice like that, I totally got you. And she hasn't messaged me since, and I'm like, good, because she left me alone. Anyway, as your boy is not single, and quite frankly would be slightly disturbed by a woman reaching out to me. Oh man, dude. Just saw the news. Keenan Allen is out. Keenan Allen's out. That's fun. For everybody. Not me. I tried to trade for him earlier this week so I'll share a little secret with you guys. Actually, you know what? I'm gonna start the podcast, then I'll share the secret. Anyway, going live in 3, 2. Ladies and gentlemen, boys and girls, and everybody else in between, this is the Broke Boy Sports Podcast. I'm Ashton Gene Lewis. I host it like so far 100% of the time because it hasn't gotten to the point where it's a bigger entity than myself. Maybe we'll get to there someday. Anyway, I do a sports podcast 2 times a week. Gonna do 2 podcasts in one day because quite frankly, you guys won't know the difference unless I tell you that it's two different ones. So, like, there's going to be people who listen to the second one and never hear this part about the first one. There were people who don't listen to the intro part of this show, and so they don't know that I'm recording two in one day. Anyway, one of them, this one in particular, is going to specifically be, this is going to be our NFL only episode of the podcast. If you're familiar with that, if you're not, let me give you a grand tour of what happens on this show on a regular basis. So on Tuesdays, we do a show that is specifically dedicated to the challenge called the Challenge Notebook that I do, where I do way too deep a dive on the MTV's The Challenge. It's a reality TV show that is sports centric. It's a very good sport. It's a very fun sport for me, and I try and bring that to life on my podcast episodes. Speaking of try. If you believe I'm good or bad at this, make sure you rate it on whatever podcast app you're listening to, whether it be Spotify or Apple Podcasts. So far, I've got one Apple Podcast review, and I've had that for like a year. It is a 5-star review. If you feel so inclined to leave one of those, go ahead. I'm not going to be one of those people who begs for 5-star reviews, although it would help me a bunch. Apparently, I don't even know how, but I'm assuming it's because, oh man, this is like a high quality product on our platform, so we're going to try and push this a little bit more than we would any other platform or any other podcast kind of deal like that. So yeah, I work really hard on this show. If you listen to it on the podcast platform, I understand it's just me talking into a microphone. If you watch on the stream on YouTube or on Twitch, you get to see a lot of visuals, in particular my face. That's the star of the show, ladies and gentlemen. I don't know if you know how things go around here. Anyway, we got a lot of stuff to talk about, and before we get started, I was going to talk about, I forgot. People who are on the stream, I apologize. I forgot what I was going to talk about I stopped a story that I was going to do and specifically said I was going to talk about it on the podcast as opposed to on the stream, and I apologize. I completely spaced out on it. Oh, I tried to trade for Keenan Allen in fantasy this week because I have a situation going on. Anyway, so the situation, here it is. I have George Kittle and I have Dalton Schultz because I drafted anyway. I drafted George Kittle, and I picked up Dalton Schultz because he started the season hurt. Picked him up. His situation is, now here's the situation. They're both on a bye. The Cowboys and the 49ers are on a bye. I'm trying to trade Dalton Schultz away before the trade deadline so that I get something for him so that I can create the space on my roster needed to pick up Evan Ingram off the free agency wire. And I'm trying to see if I can get anything for Dalton Schultz, a guy who a lot of people were really hyped about, and now that he's back is actually, one of, and I'm going to talk about this later on in the show, the Cowboys been using like 27 tight ends, and Dalton Schultz has done the best out of them in theory, but that doesn't necessarily mean that he's going to be out here killing the game, you know what I mean? So I'm trying to get rid of him, and hopefully the people who are in that fantasy league with me do not hop into the stream and hear that whole situation, because it will blow every ounce of leverage that I have. If you are watching on whatever platform you are, take a moment, like and subscribe. If you're on YouTube, like. If you're somewhere else, subscribe. I appreciate it. We talking about NFL only type shit here, boys. We're talking NFL only here. Let's take it from the top. You know how it goes. We got an update on fantasy, not actual fantasy, but it's basically like the pick'em league that I'm in. Update on that. Got a good update this week. We got the Nuke, who is the one player that every person went up against in fantasy, and he basically murdered your chances of actually being successful. Best move at the deadline. Okay, so we got a real question here. We got a real football-y type question coming from our latest subscriber, Motherman X. Shout out. By the way, loved your TikTok. Your super cringy Wawa TikTok. Loved that, bro. Anyway, just really disappointed you put the Apollos in it and instead of my dead team, the Houston Cosmos. That really hurts because we won the space battle. We won the space race at CCI where like the two space-themed teams faced off against each other. We beat them. Moving on. I'm not gonna harp on it. Anyway. Best move at the trade deadline. For me, what I saw a lot of overall at the trade deadline for the NFL, in general, a lot of players who were in, it wasn't like a lot of players who just like randomly got a phone call and were like, hey, you got traded kind of deal. It was players who were in a position that was stacked on their team. And so the team was like, hey, we'll trade away the second or third best player at this position on this team to get some kind of benefit from it. Like, right, that's what happened with Chase Edmonds, right? Like, Raheem Mostert has had the inside track to become the number one running back for the Miami Dolphins since he got there. He's literally, like, he's friends with, his Mike McDaniels is his former coach, right? Position coach, who was with the 49ers. There's an episode of, it's the Pivot Podcast. Listen to the Pivot. There's an episode of the Pivot Podcast. They talked to Raheem Mostert. By the way, H-Town, hold it down. He's from... I listened to the broadcast of the Dolphins and the Lions, and we'll talk about why that game was awesome a little bit later on. Listen to the broadcast of the Dolphins versus the Lions, and if you're from Houston, this is hilarious, and I'll explain why it is. They said Bel Air, Texas, and Episcopal, Texas. If you're from Houston, those are not cities near Houston. Those are just parts of Houston. They're areas. Bel Air is kind of like on its own and by itself to like a certain degree. It is a fancier part of town. My boy Kevin described it as like the Chinatown in Houston, but that's in Alief. The Chinatown of Houston is in Alief, Texas. There's literally a mall in Houston called Hong Kong Mall. That's fucking lit. Anyway, they got that going for them. They have... Anyway, they say Raheem Mostert's from Bel Air because he went to Bel Air High School, which is one of the best HISD, which is Houston ISD, which is a massive school district. I think it's like the second largest in America or something like that, because there's a school like every 7 blocks in Houston, because there's so many people in this place. But Bel Air is like one of the premier schools. Lamar High School, which is where it's right in front of the River Oaks Country Club, which is the most expensive zip code in America, or second most expensive zip code in America, behind Beverly Hills. Lamar High School is where Josh Gordon went to school, in case you're wondering. Raheem Mostert went to Bel Air. Jalen Waddle went to Episcopal. He went to a private school, and they talked about him as if they were like two separate cities in Houston. It was really funny because they're just places. Like, Episcopal is a private school. Like, it's a private high school. It's not its own city. It's literally in the Heights. And Bel Air is just an area of town. So best trade move for me personally, I thought the Ravens getting Roquan Smith was massive for them, because that's a team that is... And it was hard for me to sit here and be like, getting TJ Hawkinson is going to be massive for the Vikings, because quite frankly, when we're talking about the Vikings as a whole, they already have enough pass catching talent, right? Like, they're trying to make sure that they have like a third or fourth option. They're not trying to find a second, or they're not trying to find a second or a 1A. They already got that locked up. So, that being said, combine that with the fact that I feel like Roquan is going to make a huge difference in terms of tackling radius. Like, his tackling range is massive. Him and Patrick Queen is really good when it comes to blitzing as well. So with Roquan added into the mix, plus Tyus Bowser is coming back this week, I think they might have the strongest linebacking core in the NFL, whereas we live in a world now where linebacker... Yes, it's an important position. It's not a premier position, but linebacking core is massive in terms of defending the middle of the field, which is something that has to happen on a regular basis. In particular, if you're going to be a team that blitzes, you have to have someone who can delay the gaps that certain routes create, or the gaps that routes that are run by wide receivers run into. And that means you got to have smart linebackers who don't get fooled by certain action up front, right? You got to have linebackers who understand that everything behind them in terms of like the safeties and the corners is zone. And so any route run past like 15 yards is eventually going to run into 2 defensive backs. And that means that you got to buy that thin line of time where the underneath routes are covered and the routes that are behind you are technically covered as well. And a quarterback does not feel comfortable throwing the ball to you. Roquan Smith is that kind of guy. He's that fucking good, right? They got Tyus Bowser, who's going to be massive for them as well. And I think it'll change a defense that, one, has been suspect. Like, they had the situation early on in the season where they blew like three leads, which, by the way, the reason they blew those 3 leads, if you go back and look at it, I think we need to change our perspective on like what happened with the Ravens. Their offense shuts down in the second half so often. It happened on Thursday Night Football. We didn't talk about it because everybody wants to like shit on Tom Brady for a multitude of reasons. Some of them deservedly so, some of them because it makes money. Like, talking about Tom Brady is money-making, decision-making, right? I think Roquan Smith is going to be massive because of his presence over the middle of the field. When you see a good linebacker, man, like, as a guy who's a big fan of Bobby Wagner, like, I literally have Bobby Wagner's shirt I'm trying to find a way to work a Rams Bobby Wagner shirt into my life without getting like hit too hard. I already get called a fan of every team in the NFL, but I think a lot of my friends who are football fans give me a pass on Bobby Wagner because they know that I've been a fan of him since he basically got drafted to the Seahawks, and so they don't really talk shit to me about him. And because the Seahawks have not been great the last couple of years. I didn't say this year. Oh yeah, this year. Anyway, we'll talk about that later. But yeah, I think Roquan Smith to the Ravens is going to be heavily underrated. It was one of the big moves that happened, mainly because everybody's been hearing about how Roquan's pissed the fuck off, right? And he hates his life with the Ravens. And now, or he hated his life with the Bears, which is understandable because guess what? This past Sunday, they literally had their worst performance I've ever seen them have. Hands down, without question, versus their defensive performance. Luckily for them, their offense came to play, or it would have been ugly. I felt like that game was actually really fun, and we'll talk about what category it ends up in out of the 4 that we sort the games into on the NFL Only podcast. Anyway, it's time to move on. If you got any questions, hot takes, or anything else that you want to drop into the chat, feel free to do it throughout the course of the show. We'll get back on track. That was a great question to start off with because the trade deadline has always been something that I think we all have a tough time trying to. Everybody wants to predict what move is going to be the most valuable. When in actuality, usually the really small moves are the ones that matter the most. Like for instance, I know a lot of people. Bradley Chubb is a big time pass rusher, but basically we spent the first 3 years of Bradley Chubb's career with the Broncos waiting for Von Miller to be healthy so that they could rush together and become the most dynamic duo there is in the game. And me personally, been waiting for that for a while, and then Von Miller got traded. So that never was going to happen. Now he's going to be on a defensive line that's got guys like Emmanuel Ogbah, and that's going to go a long way. He's got good defensive tackles like Christian Wilkinson and other people like that too. I cannot wait to see what Bradley Chubb does, but I think linebacker is like an underrated position that goes a long way in terms of being able to help with the pass rush, help with pass coverage, and then of course run integrity, maximizing a lot of these situations and fixing other people's mistakes on the backside of run gaps and everything like that. So Roquan seems like he is the man for the job. And also linebackers in Baltimore, like what is it? Peanut butter and jelly, peas and carrots, one of those two things. Anyway, moving on. We got other stuff. Let's talk about the nuke. And Jalen Phillips. Jalen Phillips so underrated, bro. I feel like a lot of people, Motherman Max in the chat put and Jalen Phillips. So if you guys don't know, Jalen Phillips is like one of the craziest stories in the NFL. He's from Miami, went to the U, and now plays for the Miami Dolphins, right? Like hold on, I got to double check where he's exactly from. He went to the U. He was like highly touted. He was one of the few good players on the U back in the day. He was one of the few good players on Miami when they struggled the most, and he is massive in terms of like his ability to be successful. He's been killer like right off the jump. Birthday, he's 23 years old. That hurt me personally. He went to Miami. Oh man, it doesn't put your hometown. Oh, birthplace. He's from California. My bad. But yeah. He went to Miami and got drafted to the Miami Dolphins. That's just like a crazy set of two things to happen to a person. But yeah, man, I love it. Jalen Phillips is so good, man. It's ridiculous. And I think he's the youngest guy that takes the most snaps. On it. So yeah, I've always found that pretty impressive, like overall as a whole. And we'll talk about that a little bit later. If you will. Like I said, drop comments, chats, all that kind of stuff like that. Anything that you want to say about the NFL Week 8, because what we're doing, we're trying to get people ready for Sunday. Thursday's gone. We've lost the race. Usually this episode is a race to beat Thursday Night Football. We lost the race because life happened. Anyway, let's talk about a couple of things. Oh, fantasy update, and then we'll do the nuke. So, fantasy stuff in terms of the Pick'em League for the spread, picking against the spread this past week. We went 9-6, baby. We went 9-6. No subtle flex. It was pretty easy. There was a lot of big. It felt like the matchups were way more defined and way easier to identify what was going to go wrong for a lot of teams because I felt like most of what I thought was going to happen actually happened. It's a little early in the season for me to pitch to you that I know exactly what's going on. I usually don't do that until like week 10. But, halfway point of the season is next week. We got a big halfway point of the season special coming up. We're going to talk to people. We're going to have to look at each and every single one of these teams. We're going to have to take a little gander at like what we believe about these teams at this point of the season. Because guess what? Halfway through the season don't mean jack shit. in terms of like overall success. Like at some point, they're gonna fall. Like at some point, somebody's gonna fall off a wagon. Nobody is the team that they're going to end the season as, and I feel like that is something that escapes a lot of people when they're out here dropping these takes. Like for instance, I think the Rams are gonna get better as time goes on. They can't do anything about the fact that their offensive line can't block, but they can do some stuff about other things. Anyway, let's talk about. Oh wait, I was talking about the record for spread 'em. So for this against the spread, we went 9-6. Against the straight up money line, went 10-5. You know, did all right. We did all right. Most of them were dogs. We predicted the dogs pretty well. But 10-4, 10-5 this past week. So big time plus positive. That's really good recovery because 2 weeks ago I missed making all of my picks because I had the flu from hell. So I didn't make any picks. I legitimately was sitting in my bed. I had my phone in my hand and I had been asleep for 12 hours and I woke up and I was like, I gotta make my picks. And it was 11:58 when I did it. So that was a little tough. Other stuff. Let's talk about the nuke. The nuke. Some of you are familiar with this concept, but others of you, I will explain. The nuke is a fantasy concept, a mythical beast that exists every single week in fantasy football. It is typically going to be a quarterback by the raw numbers, but I'd like to go for players that are not. I like to go for players that are not in that category. I like to go for the players who fucking dominated you in fantasy that are not quarterbacks. So, the nuke is the player that if you went up against them in fantasy, they murdered you. They single-handedly carried a team that probably wasn't going to beat you based off the projection. Like, sometimes that's the worst feeling ever. I will also point out, if you know anything about fantasy projections, they undersell you on how many points they think your guy is going to score. Because it benefits them more to be like, oh, we think this guy's going to score like 8 points, even though you know for a fact, even though their average for the season may be 20, they'll be like, yeah, we think he's going to score 10 based off of our numbers because, you know, eventually that person is going to come down to earth, right? There's no benefit to overestimating because then people will be like, your projections are terrible. Anyway, we got that going on. That's the big deal. That's the big problem. The nuke. Some of you had to face him. I didn't. He beat the shit out of my team. So that was a situation I had to deal with by myself. Anyway, the nuke, very clearly, the king. Derrick Henry, 32 rushes, 219 yards, 2 touchdowns, and it could have been a lot worse if they just kept him in the game. They were also, worst part was, you know, it wasn't just Derrick Henry that was really tearing it up because this could have, quite frankly, been any running back that played for the Tennessee Titans. It just so happened to be the number one running back. It was the number one running back against the worst rush defense in the NFL. And we've been talking about the Texans' rush defense being terrible for the past, I want to say since week 1, because when they played the Colts, Jonathan Taylor rushing on them, killing them in the second half is what got the Colts back into it, allowing them to get into overtime for a tie. Which, by the way, still in everybody's mind, including mine, is a loss for the Colts. Even as bad as the Colts have been this season, that tie for the Texans, especially considering what we know now, that's a loss. That's a loss, my guy. Anyway, moving on. We did the nuke. Derrick Henry did it. He murdered, as we all expected, especially if you've been paying attention to the NFL the last couple of years. Really, Derrick Henry, big man, run fast. Big man, run fast. The deadliest thing that all of sports. Also pretty agile. Also, you know, when your entire defensive line likes to overcommit to the initial direction of the run, and you run to the backside of a play, and you put a linebacker in a one-on-one situation with Derrick Henry. Typically, Derrick Henry is going to win. One-on-one tackling situations for Derrick Henry. We live in a time now where somebody able to tackle Derrick Henry solo is truly a miracle. A marvel of science, kind of. Let's be for real. I'll move on. He murdered my team, so it actually hurts a lot. Not really, but you know. I don't really have too much to say other than, especially when it comes to like committing to the run, which the Tennessee Titans may be fighting the New York Giants for in terms of like commitment to the run kind of situation, and it panning out very well. Luckily for them, they play some of the worst rush defenses in the NFL every single week. But hey, I'm not here to talk about that. We're here to talk about streaks, peaks, and ditches. If you don't know this segment, I'll break it down for you. Streaks, we talk about really good or bad things that are happening consecutively every single week. We have peaks, where somebody had like a career high or something that was really cool that happened, and then ditches, a career low. Pretty simple. I think I did a pretty good job this week. We'll find out in a second. So this one's a long, lengthy one, but it is a streak. Jalen Waddle has increased his yards per reception from 9.8 to as a rookie last season to 17.3 this season. That's apparently the largest increase from first to second season in NFL history. But the season's not over, so who knows what's going to happen. But that's pretty cool from Jalen Waddle. H-Town, hold it down. You know what time it is. Streak, another wordy one, but this is actually kind of funny because it's the strangest streak I think we've ever had on this show. Tyreek Hill has had 160 receiving yards in every even-numbered week this season, 2, 4, 6, and now 8. He has had fewer than 100 yards in all odd-number weeks. So next week, bad week for Tyreek Hill. Keep that on mind. Kind of root for it. So that's one of those weird ones you root for, right? 3, this is a ditch, so it's like an all-time low. You had a new low. All 52 cards in a row. Sorry, that's my one song I sing for the entire show. Ditch. The Bucks have been forced into 50 third and longs. It's week 8. 50 of anything is a lot. That's number 1 in the NFL. What are you going to do? What are you going to do? I don't know. Maybe run the ball effectively or, block somebody when you drop back for passing or throw the ball to anybody that's not Mike Evans. Anyway, not my problem. Number 2, another ditch. The Rams have been outscored by 51 points in the fourth quarter. Is that bad? Is that bad? Most games are decided in the NFL in the fourth quarter, especially considering this is the closest that games have been in terms of like one-possession games in the history of the NFL, the first 8 weeks of the season. The 51 points against in the fourth quarter is the worst in the NFL, so take that one with you. There you go. Number 1, Patriots rookie Jack Jones through 8 weeks has still not allowed a touchdown. Yeah, they did it again. Through all everybody's talking about the quarterback shit and everybody's freaking out about the quarterback stuff, but they didn't found a lockdown corner randomly. I'm pretty sure Jack Jones went to Western Kentucky or something like that, so that's kind of crazy. Anyway, let's talk about some football. Put them into categories, lock them up, sort them out. You guys know the drill. There are 4 categories that we break every single game down into. There's the snooze fest category. That one's self-explanatory. Those are the most boring, not even the worst games. Those are the most boring games of the entire Sunday because there are bad games that are actually really entertaining. Some people like to watch a car crash, Heartbreaker category. These are games that were either very close or spiritually breaking possibly for a team early on in the season, which, we got a couple of those here. I think there's only 2 games in the there's 3 games in the Heartbreaker category, and there's actually 4, but one of them is really stupid. And anyway, and then we have the oh my category where something weird happened in this game and it may be a key piece of information that defines that team for the season, and the result is interesting. Overall, a lot of games in the oh my category this weekend. We'll talk about each and every single one of them. This is what we're here for, is the category, the final category. Those are the most fun games that I had the most fun watching personally, and I think there's 3 this week. Yeah, it's 3 this week. So we'll start with the snooze fest category up front, up top. And we're gonna plow through these. The snooze fest category, because most of us were asleep when it was going on. The Broncos played the Jaguars in London. I think this is the Broncos' first time, but it was the Jaguars' 57th billion. One thing to take out of this, and it was the most important thing the NFL needed you to know, it is the most people ever at a London game to watch a game. It was 86,000 people. So, you know what that is. That's 86,000 worth of ticket sales. That's a lot of beer being sold. That's a lot of merch being bought. By the way, what kind of merch do they sell at NFL London games? Do they sell both teams? Do they ship Jaguars and Broncos gear over? These are key questions. Well, I'm sure Fanatics has stuff. I'm sure Fanatics has an English department or whatever. Or a London department. This is weird. Now I have to, oh shit. I have to know the answer to that. When you go into the merch, it was at Wembley, which is where Tottenham plays? Right? Interesting. Maybe the team store doesn't change. Also, there's a question in Barry on Deck's chat circle, or in his chat earlier this week when I was watching Barry on Deck, the sports Twitch show. Check it out. Barry Laminack has been kind enough to have me on his show. And actually got me to the point where we were at 65 subscribers, and then got us on a streak because so many people were subscribed, or so many people followed us on Twitch. I think it triggered a bunch of other people being able to find me when I go live or whatever. It was a little bit better. Anyway, it got us to the point where we're like one step away from affiliate. Anyway, things to point out, things that are important about this whole situation. Besides me trying to figure out what merch they sell in the team store in London games, because I know that ain't no way the NFL passing up on an opportunity to go out here and get this money. Things out of this game, Russell Wilson's back. He's not. They played the Jacksonville Jaguars, who, by the way, they almost had us fooled, didn't they? They played really well to start the season. They very much look like the Carolina Panthers of last year, where their defense played really well for like 4 weeks. Their defense is still playing well. Their biggest issue is, one, the lack of versatility in their offense, right? Like Travis Etienne, really good runner. They don't have James Robinson anymore. But the bigger issue is that Trevor Lawrence is not throwing the ball further than 20 yards down the field. No really big plays to speak of. I understand not doing that against the Denver Broncos. They good. On defense, we talked about this last week. The Denver Broncos are probably a top 3 defense in the NFL, and their offense is so bad that they look like they're slightly below elite. And they look elite every single week, but their results are slightly below elite in the NFL. But that's also a product of like how good they are. Anyway, that's a factor in this whole thing. I thought that was the biggest thing that factored into this one overall. The Broncos defense is just absurd, and it gave the offense enough time to be able to score 21 points. Nathaniel Hackett is definitely still on the hot seat. The Eagles 35, the Steelers 13. The Steelers, and this is the part where I read one sad stat, and it tells you everything you need to know about this. The Steelers have they have a net score of minus 77, net points of minus 77 this season. Yeah. Oh, also still, me personally, I mentioned this in week 1 and week 2. I still think Minkah Fitzpatrick, all pro, first team safety. I still think that's a real thing in my heart, in my soul. And I still believe it. Anyway, other things that could be going on. They can't defend A.J. Brown, and it showed up in this game. Like, big time. So, yeah. I mean, the Eagles have to keep cooking up touchdown celebrations because they score so much. Anyway, 35-13. This game was close for a little while. And then the magic thing happened where the Eagles scored more than 14 points, and then all of a sudden the Steelers were like, our work here is done, ladies and gentlemen. So they moved on with their lives. Big L for the Steelers, man. Not having TJ Watt has really affected their ability to generate pressure. There are so many clips of Jalen Hurts having like 5 yards of space around him in a pocket because nobody's able to actually get to him. I get it. The Eagles have one of the best offensive lines in the NFL. And then guess what? I don't know if you guys knew this or not. The Steelers' offensive line for the 7th year in a row is very bad, and it quite possibly might be the worst in the NFL. And I also don't know if you know this, rookie quarterback plus bad offensive line usually don't mix all that well. Chase Claypool has ejected from one of the worst teams in the NFL to one of the few teams that might be in the category of on the up and up in terms of the Chicago Bears. We'll find out. It's very clear that the Bears are trying to do the thing. They're trying to roll their way to that top 5, baby. They got the shells loaded up into the tank, and they're ready to do it. Speaking of tanks, Patriots and Jets. This one got put in the snooze fest category because I never felt like the Jets had a legit shot of winning this one. Despite everything that we've seen from the Jets, this is the first like semi-decent team that they've really played this entire year, and it's a divisional opponent, and they still lost this game. So that was fun for everybody. Mac Jones did his thing. They are still doing the thing where we don't know who the offensive coordinator is for our team. Isn't that cool? I wonder how long that's going to last because guess what? Look, Mac Jones and all the offensive coordinators getting fired if it keeps up this rate. Anyway, big win for the Patriots. They need that for a division. Any divisional win that you get by however means you get it is massively important to any form of playoff hopes that you have, because if there's one thing that Bill Belichick has to maintain is the fact that he can still make the playoffs with the team that he's got, because his defense is probably top 10 in the NFL, and the offense is kind of lagging behind. The offense has looked good sometimes. It's never looked good consistently throughout an entire game, and consistency has been one of the biggest issues for every single offense in the NFL this season, except I wouldn't even say the Bills. The Bills have looked inconsistent, but overall they are more consistent than they are inconsistent. The Bills, the Chiefs, can't say the Ravens because they shut down in the second half of the game. I mean, outside of that, I mean, what other team? You know what I mean? Like, there's teams that are consistently bad, but there's no team that's like, oh, we got this. We're guaranteed to score this many points every time we show up. Anyway, that's the end of the Snooze Fest category. As you can tell, I didn't bore you with all the sad stats that came out of a multitude of those games, but it was still big. If you're wondering what I'm doing, my nose is runny because I'm talking a lot and because of the time of the year, so I apologize. Heartbreakers category, these are all the games that kind of broke my soul. In terms of me having to watch them, because some of them I had to watch back. For instance, Commanders Colts, I didn't catch it live because I was watching something else, so I had to go back and watch this absolutely brutal football game. There's a lot of hype around the fact that Taylor Heineke is out there playing football again. I personally have things against Taylor Heineke because he supports certain things, and people try and pretend that not hold that against him. But he supports certain things. He's made it very clear that he does. I'm not about it. The Sam Ehlinger, straight out of Austin, Texas from UT, taking over for the Colts. And I'll tell you why he had to do it. The Colts have, I think they surrendered the second most sacks so far this season because Matthew Stafford's been sacked more than Matt Ryan. The thing that stuck out like a sore thumb, not only did both of these guys go out there and throw some dimes every once in a while, I'm not going to lie, they just couldn't get multiple good plays strung together. The one thing that really stuck out to me was Sam Ehlinger, when the pocket went to shit, he was gone. He was gone. He was like, I'm not going to waste my time trying to see if you can fix it. I'm not going to waste my time trying to see if you can figure out a way to save either one of these situations. I'm gone. The wide receiver's open down the field, and if I just run 15 yards to the right-hand side and wait for this safety or this corner to drop down on me and something like that, I can find somebody who's open. I'm not going to sit here and get cracked by Zaire Williams or sit here and get cracked by Grover Stewart. Imagine signing up to sit still so Grover Stewart could hit the shit out of you. Yeah, right. Or DeForest Buckner. Goddamn, no fucking way. Because pocket integrity is important. Bullshit. Sam Ehlinger did a great job of when the shit was gone. When the shit went wrong, he was gone. And that's something that you couldn't get out of Matt Ryan because I mentioned this in the preview for the season. Matt Ryan is playing with the worst offensive line he has ever played with the Colts. He's also playing with like the worst wide receiver group, and they expected him to come in there and elevate everybody to like a super high level. Also, key moment of this game, the Colts are on a potential game-winning drive. Michael Pittman catches and then drops a reception that would have gotten catches and drops a reception that would have gotten them I think it was like 10 yards away from field goal range or the edge of field goal range, essentially. He drops it on the tuck, and he just so happens to also be looking looking to the path that he's running now because he's running from left to right. He just so happens to see Cam Curl, somebody who hit the shit out of him earlier in the game, and it is hard for me, stupid football guy brain, it's hard for me to be like, that violence that he inflicted upon you earlier in the game affected your ability to potentially help your team win. And it was just like, remember, kids, violence is good in certain situations. It was one of those situations. Anyway, this game was super hard to watch. It was heartbreaking for the Colts because they legitimately had a game-winning drive that got disrupted by one drop, and both of these quarterbacks played slightly above average, played better than some of these old guys that are out here doing it, and the Commanders fans seemed like they were having a good time. The Colts fans did a lot of booing after the game was over. Don't know what that was about. The Colts also fired their offensive coordinator after this game. Very kind of them to fire their offensive coordinator so he can get a head start on the job search ahead of everybody else who's on the Colts staff when they're fired at the end of the season. So that's love. That's real love. Real love. 49ers, Rams, 31-14. 49ers 31, Rams 14. You know what the weird part about this game was? The Rams were in the lead going into the fourth quarter, and then the 49ers just unleashed An absolute barrage on them. So a couple of things happen. There are many videos on the internet right now that are replays of many near sack situations that Matthew Stafford escaped. By the way, Matthew Stafford had to go full Detroit Lions on the ass. Oh, look at that. We got some racism in the chat on YouTube. Somebody spelled out nigga. That's fun. I'm gonna do that. Awesome. That was, were they trying to hurt me? Anyway, I don't know if that person was white or not. Anyway, that was weird. Going back to 49ers Rams, I got haters now. Does that mean I'm popping? 49ers Rams. Matthew Stafford had to go full Detroit Lions on their ass a couple of times. One of these, they got 2 touchdowns out of this. One of those touchdowns, he had to run directly into a Fred Warner, and oh man, it wasn't Emmanuel Mosley, one of the cornerbacks for the 49ers. He had to run into like what he knew was going to be a combined tackle for both of them to score a touchdown because they could not find somebody who was open. So that was fun for everybody. Oh, if you have not heard, I'll say it because I need to make sure that you as a football fan know this. The 49ers own the Rams. They have part ownership of their championship from last year. They have full ownership of the team during the regular season. So I just had to keep pointing it out because it's truly one of the wildest streaks that's going on in the NFL right now. The 49ers' absolute destruction of the Rams because they're there's two tactical geniuses going back and forth with each other who, to be fair, both of those guys are really struggling right now to be able to find consistency in their teams being successful. The 49ers get one step closer to my ultimate plan in this game as well. Did you see it? I saw it. I talked about this last week, and I think, guys, we may be on to something. I requested that the 49ers switch to the wishbone offense. Really, the wing tee, because the wing tee actually has passing plays in it. The wishbone, not so much. But Christian McCaffrey, passing, rushing, and receiving touchdown. The Genesis. Kyle Shanahan looking at, man, how many ways can we get the ball out of Jimmy Garoppolo's hands? By the way, most of Jimmy Garoppolo's throws were either deep down the field or off of swing routes to Christian McCaffrey in open space. And if you haven't, there's a clip. This was a play. It was like a post route from inside. It was a post route, running back post route from the backfield. He chopped up 3 Rams players, and then somebody was able to, the first guy that he chopped up, while he was chopping up the other 2 Rams players at the same time, recovered to be able to punch the ball out from behind, and it was a near fumble situation. Even though he caught it, ran upfield like 2 steps, and in the NFL you need to take 3 steps apparently to do an NFL football type move, even though I feel like taking 2 steps towards the end zone to be able to score is a football move, but 3 steps, is definitive. Without question whatsoever, you have control of the ball and you're moving up the field. They punch the ball out, they call it an incomplete pass. The Rams save, they stop the clock, and they get an opportunity to try and drive down the field or whatever because the challenge worked and it sets them up to be able to get a third challenge like later on in the game. That I feel like is underrated. People trying to get a third challenge out after winning the first 2. Anyway, that happened. Christian McCaffrey chopped up the Rams all day. It felt like racism. I'm not gonna lie. I'm just kidding. There is a part of me that wanted to come out here and do I feel like every time Christian McCaffrey does something cool, it's racism. So, but there's clips going around of NFL football players who have podcasts now talking about being in practice with Christian McCaffrey and how insane it is because he hurt their feelings because they'd never seen a white guy be able to move like that before. And I honestly, me for one, I respect it because I feel like, Christian McCaffrey out here breaking stereotypes. We love a pioneer, even though there's some things about Christian that in his personal life I don't really like all that much. Or maybe he's cleaned those things up. Who knows? I doubt it, though. But yeah, Christian McCaffrey dominated this game. Their entire offense flowed through him. Debo was out in this one, so Brandon Ayuk got to be the number 1 wide receiver, which means that he Got to experience what it's like for Debo, what Debo's situation is, where you get wide open and Jimmy doesn't throw you the ball. George Kittle, I think, caught like 2 passes or something like that. He caught one of the touchdowns. Nasty throw from Jimmy Garoppolo. And that's the problem with Jimmy, right? Like, he's got like 7 dimes in his arm every single game. All the other ones, super suspect. Half of them were super suspect. The other ones, they're attempts to throw the ball to the other team. There's no other way to think about them in that way. He had one situation where a tight end, number 82 for the 49ers, I remember his number and I remember the play, don't know his name. He is running free down the field. Jimmy Garoppolo kind of underthrows him and it slows him down and the safeties catch up to him, but whatever. It was a big play. Jimmy Garoppolo out there slanging that thing a little bit, This game, the score at the end of the third quarter was 10-14, and the final score in this one was 31-14. So the 49ers scored 3 touchdowns in the fourth quarter, just in case you were wondering. That's how bad it was. And a lot of it was because basically after the first half of the game, the pressure from the 49ers got dialed up to 10, so the Rams offense could no longer function. There's a beautiful play, and once again, Nick Bosa, a man who has tweeted out that he thinks that the worst Marvel movie is Black Panther, which is the biggest red flag I can think of from a person ever. Anyway, he's on the outside edge on the left-hand side. Joe Noteboom, who is the left tackle now for the 49ers, gets spun into fucking oblivion. I've never seen a professional athlete look that embarrassed. So Nick fakes to the outside like 3 steps. First of all, Nick closes the gap on his kick step back. He closes the gap instantaneously. So he's like almost in Joe's chest. Joe punches his hands out, and Joey uses his inside arm, swipes him away, and he's instantaneously in the backfield and sacking Matthew Stafford. He then proceeded to do that again on the following play, and that was the first drive for the Rams in the second half, I think, or first drive for the Rams in the fourth quarter. So, yeah, they just kept trying to pass the ball, and it resulted in bad things happening because the pass rush for the 49ers is absolutely insane. And it's also magnified by the fact that the Rams pass protection was good in the first half, decent enough in the first half. In the second half, non-existent. Legitimately, they got pressure. They got registered pressures from the 49ers on 42% of the pass attempts in the second half of this game. So, yeah, don't know how any form of success can come from that. That was fun for everybody. I think you should go look up that Nick Bosa sack on Matthew Stafford. Not the second one. The first one was amazing. The second one was really cool, though. Oh, also, the Rams have fully abandoned the run, in case you were wondering. They're 31st in pass attempts, yards per carry, and I think also like rushing yards in total. They're doing this. We have an extension of our run game. It's our screen game. We throw the ball on bubble screens. They're like quick ends from Cooper Rush and all that kind of stuff like that, which to their credit kind of solves the problem of not having the offensive line involved in blocking up the field, but also does not help the fact that you need to actually be able to run the ball and control the clock. Because if people can predict that those throws are coming, you know what's a lot longer than handing the ball off to a running back? Throwing the ball the 10 yards to the left-hand side to go get it to Cooper Kupp. So, yeah, Cooper Kupp also got hurt in this game, but apparently is going to be fine. He rolled his ankle or something like that, but he's good. Cam Akers was not in this one because he's been gone for 3 weeks. I feel like nobody's really talking about that. Cam Akers thought he was getting traded at the trade deadline, and then real life happened where, I guess he realized he's a running back in the NFL. He also, not going to lie, very young career to be kind of acting like the way he's acting about being traded. Not to be that guy, but was it a lot of people thought he was going to be a starting running back this season. He ends up not having a great day. They start splitting carries between him and Darrell Henderson Jr. basically from the jump, from the opener. And now we all know what the problem is. It's the offensive line. There's too many clips of defensive linemen just getting straight up into the backfield for us not to blame the offensive line. By the way, similar situation with the 49ers. Mike McGlinchey, Jesus Christ, versus Aaron Donald. I'm sorry, it wasn't Mike McGlinchey. It was their right guard for the 49ers. He's tapping the center to let him know that it's cool to snap the ball. Everybody else looks up. The guard still has his hand on the center's shoulder. The ball gets snapped, and Aaron Donald's just like, cool, you're not going to block me later. And goes and gets Jimmy Garoppolo. Good for him. Good for his overall health, my guy. One thing I saw in this game, and it keeps coming up every single time I watch the Rams, I feel like Allen Robinson's leading the league in drops. He's the number one red zone target for the Rams, and vast majority of the time, he just like drops, or it feels like he does what is considered a drop. And then I went and checked like the drop numbers, like rankings and stuff like that. Ironically enough, Chase Edmonds, number one in the NFL in drops. Allen Robinson's not even in the top 15. And they start doing that thing where there's like, all these people are tied for 14th place. And there's literally like 12 dudes that were tied for 14th place in terms of drops. So maybe it's just me, but maybe it's just the pass attempts towards Allen Robinson and him being on the different page than Matthew Stafford. But they're going to figure it out, because like the second that they do, because I feel like it's getting a little bit better every single week. They went up and they did it against the 49ers, and there was one where I feel like it legitimately should be counting as a drop, because actually it can't count as a drop because it hit the ground first. So Matthew Stafford's rolling out to the right-hand side, throws the ball to the right mid area, not the corner, the right the right outside edge area, right near the out of bounds area for the end zone. Allen Robinson does the thing where like they get on the ground, or wide receivers get on the ground, they try and body catch it using their chest to seal a low pass and their hands to keep it off the ground, and he has the situation happen where his elbows are too far apart and the ball just hits the ground. So I guess that doesn't count as a drop, but it also felt like it was a very catchable situation, and he did not come up with the catch. So that's a little frustrating. But yeah, don't look at what Rams fans have to say about Allen Robinson. They go in on him like every single week. Other games in the heartbreaker category, this was heartbreaker because this like seemed like it was going to be a close matchup, and then the 49ers just ran away with it. Also, the Rams looked like they were struggling for every single thing that was happening out here, and the 49ers were very smooth, but the game was still relatively close going into the fourth quarter. It can only hold up for so long. Another one, the Browns played the Bengals, and this is a heartbreaker because everybody remembered that the Bengals can't pass protect again for like the fourth straight year. And so there's no way for them to actually be successful very quickly. Jamar Chase was out in this game. He has a hip injury. Apparently he's going to be out for like 6 weeks maximum, or allegedly 6 weeks maximum, which is not great. Browns 32, Bengals 13. The Browns broke these boys in half. The Browns defense showed up, which you could argue is the first time this entire season that they've shown up. I would argue, I would be one of those people that would argue that, because they've not looked good, especially the secondary. But the Bengals offense without Jamar Chase is a drastically different place, especially considering they're essentially cut off from being able to use Joe Mixon effectively because their run blocking is, like we've meant, I'll say it again on the show, it's my favorite phrase, they snap the ball for a run play and the offensive line is shoulder to shoulder, baby. Ain't nowhere to go. That happens a lot with the Bengals and Joe Mixon's effectiveness. Good to see the Bengals are still able to do that thing where they play ridiculously well in the fourth quarter. Just really wish they had done something in the first 2-3 quarters. In case you didn't catch on to that, the Bengals didn't score a single point until the fourth quarter of this game. Yeah. The Browns almost pitched the shutout. This is structurally a huge win for the Browns. It keeps them very, you could argue the Browns are in contention to lead the AFC North and take the flat-out playoff spot, not even a wild card situation. And every week that passes and every win they get gets them one step closer to starting Deshaun Watson. And like I said before, I think the Browns can be a team that goes to the Super Bowl. So, yeah. The Browns are still on track, like I said, to win the AFC North. The Steelers are down bad. The Bengals are sketchy every single week. And then, of course, the Ravens, they don't play offense in the second half of most football games that they're in. So, there's that. Yeah. Yeah. Oh, also they just lost their number one receiver in Rashad Bateman. But yeah, the Browns, they went out here, they stuck to the brand. They believe in the brand. They are committed to the run. 44 carries. Ran him over. Literally ran him over. Ran over one of the best defenses in the NFL, which is very, very impressive. The Bills played the Packers. This was sad. Okay, so let's be real. The Bills are elite but struggle with consistency. I mentioned that earlier in the show. I still don't really understand what this game was an example of. I can't tell if it was the Bills are so good that even when they're bad, they dominate games, right? The Packers are 100% a team that can never turn the ball over and win a game. And I will now describe a very strange series of events that might have been the undoing for the Packers, even though they were down big in the fourth quarter. The Bills threw an interception. The Packers had one play. They threw an interception. And then the Bills threw an interception on the possession after that. Does that sound like a recipe for winning, especially when you're down? You get free possessions. The Packers couldn't even get that like magical entity, that magical power that bestows itself upon the play that is immediately after the turnover that you can like usually rip off for like 60 yards. And if you get it in the opponent's territory, usually turns into a touchdown. They don't even have that this year. That's how bad it is for the Packers. Yeah, man, it was just one of those games where, you know, the Bills played like shit. They converted 2 third downs this entire game. Josh Allen got sacked twice. They are one in the middle of the field, by the way, and then the subsequent drive became a 3 and out. And they had one just outside the Packers' red zone that turned it into a field goal. And the Packers still couldn't muster enough energy. Once again, another week where the Packers have not scored 21 points. But yeah, moving on to the oh my category. So the Ravens played the Buccaneers on Thursday Night Football. Probably one of the more exciting Thursday Night Football games we've seen all season. Let's be for real. It actually might be the most exciting one. Other than that Cardinals-Saints one. Yeah, so the score in this game was like really deceptive because the Ravens shut down their offense in the second half like they always do, and it sets up people to be able to blame the defense for things that are actually the offense's fault. We're like, hey man, you know, the defense is going out there and playing really well all 4 quarters. It's just that they're not getting any kind of support whatsoever from the offense in the second half. Kenyon Drake reappeared, which is everybody's worst nightmare because it seems like that man will never stop playing football, even though he plays the most brutal of all positions. So the Bucs run game couldn't get anything going for what? They've had, I think, 2 good running weeks so far, which is tough when you let a guy like Ronald Jones go, but also a product of offensive line blocking because Leonard Fournette is a guy that can get yards up the middle if you let him be violent, and they're not even in a position where they can let him be violent. Most of this game was Tom Brady trying to get the ball to Mike Evans by any means necessary, and as you can tell, that didn't work out all that well. So the second half rolls around. They do a pretty good job of passing the ball in the second half, but they are still like relatively one-dimensional in what they can do, and even their passing offense, which is the one dimension that they have available to them, is still one-dimensional. The Ravens pass rush really got to Tom Brady in the first half, and that's basically what shut him down, and it bought the Ravens time to be able to put up 27 points, which is hard to overcome in the second half of a game. Speaking of hard to overcome, the Vikings beat down the Cardinals. The Cardinals actually played pretty well the first half of this game, played decently well in the third quarter, and then the fourth quarter rolled around, and the commitment to the run, and also Kirk Cousins doing the Kirk Cousins thing where, like, you know, when he's ahead, and he keeps playing like he's doing pretty well overall. He ran basically they wore out the Cardinals. Like, the Cardinals gassed out in the second half of this game, and the Vikings, like, ran away with this win. They won by 9, but, like, they won by 8, but you know what I mean. Saints, Raiders, watched every single second of this game, and I wish I could have that 3 hours back. 2 hours and 10 minutes. I don't watch commercials on the replays. If you need the link, hit me up. Saints, Raiders. So the way that this happened is, this is one of those weird situations where everybody keeps saying it, and it's true. If you haven't watched a Raiders game so far this season, do yourself a favor and do it so you can get in on it too. The Raiders are a really good football team that cannot put together multiple good plays in a row. In particular, in like high pressure, high leverage situations, like really small areas like the red zone. But Josh Jacobs has rushed for over 100 yards for 4 straight weeks. the defenses played like moderately well. Like for instance, the Saints is a team that came off of a week where I think they scored 38 points and it was like 38 points they scored versus the Cardinals on Thursday Night Football, right? If I'm not mistaken. The Saints have offensively been kind of cooking the last couple of weeks, but yeah, man, like the Raiders had a lot of big. I want to say it was like 6 or 7 plays that went over 15 yards, and they had like 4 that were over 20. They ran the ball pretty well, and there basically was like this magical wall once they got to the 50-yard line because they didn't get into Saints territory until 3 minutes and something in the fourth quarter with their backup quarterback in the game. So if that lets you know anything, it was the Big Mac. We are Big Mac Hollins fans here in the bank on the Broke Boy Sports Podcast because I love to see a guy who it was very clear that he was talented. Motherman Max is a Big Mac Hollins fan. You like his hair, or you like the fact that he's an anime fan? By the way, shout out Travis Homer. He had the sweetest cosplay for Halloween this week. He was one of the Tokyo Revengers characters. It was pretty cool. Anyway, going back to Mac Hollins and the Raiders, they look good. Too bad they couldn't look good multiple times over. They also turned the ball over a bunch in this game. And I don't know if you guys know this or not, they did a pretty good job against pretty much everybody except Alvin Kamara. He scored 3 touchdowns in this one. So, yeah, no big deal. Also, Alvin Kamara, round of applause to Alvin Kamara. He was playing big time into the trade rumors on Twitter. There was a lot of Twitter action going on from players, of all people, about potential trades that were going down. Brandon Cooks threatening dudes. Yeah, that is right. Matt Collins is one of the big, NFL-wise, he is one of the big social media dudes. I just don't see his stuff anymore. I think he's also on TikTok, along with, Isaiah Crochet, who got roasted by one of his offensive line teammates or whatever, or last week or whatever. But, yeah, they're a lot of fun. I like Matt Collins a lot. He did an Afro Luffy cosplay that I'll never forget, and a lot of my friends didn't get it because it's a niche version of an anime that is not One Piece is not niche, but it's a niche version of that character, and it's very funny that he did it for Halloween, because he had one season where he would come dressed up to the facility every single week, and I thought it was really cool. Especially considering there's a lot of dudes that just wear, sweatpants and stuff like that. But I love to see him thriving because Devontae Adams had a tough one in this one. Don't know. I feel like Devontae's doing good. You know what I mean? He's with Derek Carr, and it's not like they're playing terribly or anything like that. And also, the Packers are terrible, and I would rather suck in Vegas than suck in Green Bay, Wisconsin. No shade to Green Bay, Wisconsin. Never been there. Trying to keep it that way, but Vegas is fun. I've been to Vegas many times. It's a fun time every single time, especially when I'm sure it's even more fun when you're a millionaire. One, there's good food everywhere in Vegas. That's the nice part too. You can find pretty much any type of food that you want in Vegas because the restaurants are world class there. So that goes a long way, I'm sure. And isn't Devontae from California? He went to Fresno, so he's from Cali. So, yeah, anything that's close enough to California is going to do for him. Not Green Bay, Wisconsin. He'll be all right. So we're in the oh my category, right? Yeah. So Saints Raiders was a oh my situation because it's easily the worst performance we've seen out of the Raiders all season, and they've had some pretty bad ones. That game versus the Titans was pretty bad. They played really well versus the Chiefs, but this was the worst one. The Saints kind of rolling a little bit. There, buddy. Also, every time they dropped back and passed in this one, Derek Carr was under pressure. Marcus Davenport, beast mode. But yeah, Mac Hollins is one of our streaks and peaks. He was one of our streaks and peaks in week 3 because he's already having a career season. In his first year, or his first 8 games as a Raider, he's got more catches, reception yards, and pretty soon receiving touchdowns than he's ever had in his entire NFL career, and he's been in the league for 6 years. So you love to see a fun guy succeed. You love to see the fun guys win, especially because, the Raiders probably going to pay him some money, you know what I mean? He's looked more effective than Zay Jones did when he was with the team. The Titans played the Texans, and this is the most deceptive score of the week, ladies and gentlemen. Final score is 17-10. This is what the commitment to the run gets you. Close games, but, this is for the real football fans. You watch, and honestly, it's not for the real football fans. It's for the real people who hate themselves. If you watch Texans Titans, you're a bad person. That's why I'm here. I'm a bad person. I watched every single second of this game, and I watched that. You know what? I'm not even gonna say it. I fucking hate the Titans. Mainly because I have a friend who's like really annoying about his team being good. He legitimately is the worst winner and the worst loser as a person. And he wins a lot, like in life and shit like that. But in particular, he's from New Zealand, and he randomly picked the Titans as his team when he got here. And I'll be honest with you, they sucked when he first became a fan, and now they're good. That I respect. He stuck with it through thick and thin. Anyway, Titans get a big win. They're running away with the AFC South. They may sweep the AFC South for the first time. Man, has the AFC South ever been swept? Because if it ever has, it would be the Colts. I have to look that up. I legitimately, legit, the Titans could be sweeping. Somewhere in this game, the Titans ran the ball, and they just ran through the Texans defense. Like every single situation that could possibly go wrong went wrong in this one, except the Titans couldn't score as often. They possessed the ball so much in this game. That is why this score is the way it is. The Texans didn't score that touchdown until like the fourth quarter with like 5 minutes remaining. I was listening on the radio on the way to my friend's wedding, and they had not scored a touchdown. And then when I got out of the wedding and I saw the final score was 17-10, and I was like, they scored a trash touchdown in like the fourth quarter, and now the game looks like it was close. If that's how you tell who watched it and who didn't. That's how you tell who hates themselves and who doesn't, if they watched this game. So I watched it, and I can't wait for Will Anderson to become a Houston Texan. It's gonna be so awesome. I put the Titans Texans on there, and then I put a game that I really enjoy, because it's time for me to talk my shit right now. Seahawks Giants 27-13. So I'm glad we all agree, without any question whatsoever, the Seattle Seahawks run the NFL. Number one most explosive run game in the NFL. Geno Smith still ain't seen a pin in a month and a half, in 2 months. Offensive rookies of the week for offense and for defense, Tariq Woolen, who's tied for first in interceptions. Geno Smith, offensive player, NFC offensive player of the month. Getting it done. Because guess what? It's time. A year removed from Bobby Wagner and Russell Wilson leaving. Boys out here cooking. It's week 8, and only 4 teams have ever scored over 20 points versus the Giants so far this season. The Seahawks, put up a light 27, which is a season high in terms of like points surrendered by the Giants defense, but which, by the way, they have like some freak injuries. They had one guy who he got concussed after the second fumble for the Giants, like legitimately hit the back of his head on the turf, and I guess they pulled him out of the game. It was kind of weird. The Seahawks scored the most points against the Giants defense, which has been at the top of the league vast majority of this season. And the Giants, on the other hand, Daniel Jones is out there running for his life. 5 sacks for a team that they said couldn't generate pressure. 56 rushing yards for Saquon Barkley. For a defense they said couldn't block on the interior from the D-line position. They, for the last 3 weeks of the NFL season, have been the number 1 defense in DVOA. Which, by the way, that reminds me, it's time for me to torment our favorite friend, guys. That may be who we talk about at the halfway point of this. That may be who we talk to at the halfway point of the season. It's like 3 years running where we torment him. You guys know. You'll see next week. You'll see. I'll find him. Don't worry. Did I just close something important? I just accidentally closed the tab and I don't. Oh, it may have been Twitter. Anyway, the NFL's worst nightmare has come to fruition, baby. Don't worry about it. We won't clown y'all too hard. You know what I mean? Seahawks, man. I think it's time to put the D word on them, guys. I think it's time to start talking dark horse. Dark horse. Leading the NFC West currently right now, they held the Giants to 2.7 yards per carry. Like I said before, they sacked Daniel Jones 5 times. Daniel Jones is a wily quarterback. Is Daniel Jones just athletic, or do we call him wily? Wily vet. Also, good luck to the Giants trying to figure out whether or not they're going to, sign an extension for Daniel Jones and what that money is going to look like, because his agent is, oh my God, his agent's going to be going ham this summer. Let's be for real. Shout out Daniel Jones. I hate John Mara as a person. I don't know John Mara, but after he defended that kicker who basically was just like, that kicker who was going insane and then tried to portray Colin Kaepernick as if he was like legitimately a terrorist. John Mara's a piece of shit to me. So, good luck. I hope you take every single dime from him. Speaking of dimes, we're going to talk about Daniel Snyder at some point later on the next episode. Moving on, Seattle Seahawks, dark horse. This is the oh my game because the Giants have been a highly hyped team for the entire season, and the Seahawks went out there and took care of business. Took them down, finished it off. This is what we're here for. This is the category where all the cool shit happened this week, and we got 3 games in here. So Cowboys-Bears, the final score in this was 49-29, but if you watch this game, it was actually a ton of fun. The Bears got down 28-7 in this game, came back a little bit, and then the Cowboys just kept kicking. It was cool. I'm not, you guys know this. I hate the city of Dallas, even though vast majority of my teammates that I love with all my heart play there. By the way, that reminds me, I need to finish this up so that I can go help my friends okay. Yeah, sorry. We just had to check the phone. Just got a text. 26 minutes is the ETA, so we're good. We're about to be done with this one. If you didn't hear on the stream, I'm supposed to go help my friends move some tables for their baby shower tomorrow that I may or may not miss accidentally because of Diamond Cup. We don't need to talk about that. Cowboys 49, Bears 29. Tony Pollard starting the debate that me and my friends, like, let's be for real, me and my friends been having this debate for like 3 years. We think that Tony Pollard's better than Ezekiel Elliott, but the fact of the matter is, like, Zeke does all the stuff that you want from a running back. Like, Tony Pollard struggles with pass protection, which is a huge deal, especially when you're talking about a quarterback who, got his leg broken in half running in open space a couple of years ago, and then also broke his hand on the helmet of his left guard. Anyway, Micah Parsons had a touchdown in this one because of a freak, like legitimately the dumbest way to fumble possible. David Montgomery's catching the ball, running upfield. He's like 2 yards away from converting like a 3rd and 17 or a 3rd and 15 that the Bears had gotten themselves into. And he gets the ball popped out from behind him. Michael Parsons recovers it. He's surrounded by his teammates. Everybody seems to be celebrating, and I think the Bears offense had stopped running. Michael realizes that the whistle hasn't blown, gets up and runs towards the end zone, dives in, and I thought maybe, just maybe, the refs were going to be like, he gave himself up. They didn't even review the play, so it made me a little suspect because there's definitely a rule where, like, if everybody kind of is, like, universally agreeing that the play is over, that the whistle hasn't blown and stuff like that, then the play is over. So it was a little tough for me personally seeing Michael Parsons run away for that touchdown. I love defenders that do really good jobs overall. Dak had 3 touchdowns in this one, 2 passing, 1 rushing. Tony Pollard had 3 touchdowns in this one, 2 rushing, 1 receiving. Touchdown in this one. An underrated story in this game, Justin Fields also had 3 touchdowns in this one. He had a rushing and 2 passing ones. Pretty good. This is the worst Bears defensive performance I had seen all season. They allowed the Cowboys to score on the first 4 drives consecutively, which when you're a team that is still trying to figure itself out and led by a pretty young quarterback, guess what happens, guys? You really struggle to be able to score on that many consecutive possessions. Like, that's absurd even for a really good NFL team to be able to score on 4 straight drives, to score a touchdown on 4 straight drives. Also, worse, typically you can tell when a defense is having an ass day. When you look at the 3rd down conversion rate, 9 for 11. 9 for 11. Terrible day. Also, I watch a lot of football. A lot of other people watch a lot of football. I would love for somebody to explain where the fuck the Cowboys are getting all these tight ends from. They've got like 22 of them. They've got 22 of them. And no offense to my white brothers and sisters out there, they all look relatively similar, except that Ferguson guy who has like arm sleeve tattoos. So, Interesting. Good win for the Cowboys. Really fun game to watch, mainly because if the if the Bears weren't scoring a touchdown, something absolutely absurd happened for a turnover to be generated, and it set up the Cowboys to do something really cool. Also, it's really fun to watch Tony Pollard run, just like it's fun to watch Zeke run when he's got like a ton of space in front of him. Tony Pollard is real shifty, so it's like really cool to see him because he does that thing where like he disappears into a pile of people, and then all of a sudden he's 15 yards away towards the end zone. Yeah, it's really fun. Anyway, Falcons-Panthers, final score 37-34. The Panthers, wait a minute. Hold on. I think we got ourselves a little situation here. Let me check real quick. Because if I recall correctly, oh yeah, my bad. Sorry. It was really tough to remember who won this game, mainly because it should have been won by the Panthers in regulation, but a weird penalty of taking off your helmet into the end zone. Was it DJ Moore? DJ Moore takes off his helmet outside of the end zone, which is a thing. Like, I saw Odell Beckham Jr. get called for it. Remember the day that Odell Beckham Jr. like kicked the kicking net and like that went viral? If you watch that game, he was livid but also balling out of control that day. He had a touchdown that he scored. He immediately took his helmet. I don't know why I just said sorry. He immediately took his helmet off. Even though he was on the white of the sideline, they still called him for a penalty because they felt like he took his helmet off while he was within the bounds of a football play that had just immediately ended, which was really weird. But that's basically what they called on DJ Moore. It backed up the PAT, which forced a miss that prevented the Panthers from being able to win that one. Anyway, did you guys know Steve Wilkes, who got fucked over in Arizona, who, by the way, looks like Arizona's on the path to being able to fire their head coach at the end of this season. Very weird how that works out. Terrible defensive performance from the Panthers. Expected terrible defensive performance from the Falcons defense because they haven't had good defense since they went to the Super Bowl. That's just facts. They don't generate any pressure. PJ Walker with another amazing day. Hopefully that turns into more opportunities for him because we've seen him kind of get like jerked around a little bit the last couple of years because they've done everything in their power to let Sam Darnold try and have an opportunity to be successful when in actuality, sometimes it's okay to let things die. And the Sam Darnold experiment can die. It's okay. I'm not talking about Sam Darnold. I'm talking about the Sam Darnold experience overall. Sometimes it's okay to move on. You know what I mean? And if they had done it a little bit earlier, maybe Matt Rule would still have his job. You know? Who knows? Only time will tell. What? Not for Matt Rule, but like for everybody else. Like Matt Rule's already fired. Matt Rule's probably on his way to Nebraska. By the way, did you guys see that thing where like Bill O'Brien is gonna be the next head coach for Auburn? That's fucking weird. Good luck to Auburn. Anyway, still think Bill O'Brien did a pretty good job with the Texans. And I felt like a lot of other people kind of screwed him over when he was here. Anyway, Dolphins 31, Lions 27. In this game, it was a lot of fun. Jared Goff was actually throwing dimes. Jared Goff threw some dimes in this one. DeAndre Swift got in there a little bit. Jamal Williams, I don't know if they're trying to slowly work DeAndre Swift back into the rotation or anything like that, but Jamal Williams was highly effective. He vultured 2 touchdowns. And I feel bad saying the term vultured because that's a fantasy football term for there's a starting running back, and when they get into the red zone, they switch to another running back sometimes, and you're just kind of, there is no gasp of hope like when you are a fantasy football player and the general manager and you are watching your starting running back or like one of the starting running backs that you spend a lot of draft capital on get to like the 5-yard line and then get his legs taken out and holding your breath that the head coach of the football team is going to have mercy on his starting running back to let him go out there and play for one more play to get that touchdown. And honestly, if you're a person who's ever been in this situation, you know you only got one shot at it before they send the guy in there to vulture the touchdown. I find that hilarious because I've been in that spot so many times, and it has taught me the key lesson of do not draft players who get vultured. Do not draft players who get vultured. Whatever. That being said, this game was so much fun. It's actually probably the funnest game of the entire weekend. Mainly because Tua. Oh, by the way, weird thing from this week in Week 8, the Giants and the Seahawks in the year 2022 were the only two teams with a winning record that faced each other. The Lions offense found itself again because if you recall, they had gone 2 or 3 weeks without scoring a single touchdown. They scored a lot of touchdowns in this game. It turns out when you have DeAndre Swift and Amon-Ra St. Brown, you can be successful. And there was a lot of really big plays downfield. The Lions defense is still caught in weird spots. I will point this out on the game icing drive for the Dolphins. They had the ball, and instead of running it with Raheem Mostert, they chose to do kind of like a play action situation with, not play action. They chose to do, it was play action. It was play action to Raheem Mostert on the left-hand side, and they saw something, I guess, in the Lions zone where they were misaligned horribly, like to the point that one of their defensive linemen ended up having to run after Tyreek Hill, who was on the inside slot position on the left-hand side. Like, legitimately, you can go watch this video towards the end of the game. Tyreek Hill, like, runs an out, or no, he runs an out and up. And the two closest defenders are Jeff Okudah, who was like 15 yards away to the inside of the formation, and number 99 for the Detroit Lions. That's getting cooked, right? Like, that's... Miami has the Dolphins. That is true. The greatest football team. I respect it. I did not know you were a Miami Dolphins fan. I thought maybe you were a Giants guy for some reason. But yeah, tons of fun in this game. That was a weird situation. The Dolphins used all of their tools available to them very successfully. They even got passes to Mike Gesicki, which has been like the biggest point of consternation. Yes, I use consternation on the show where I also said nigga. Consternation of they got him the ball. You know, everybody touched it. It was really good to see. Also, Tua's back. Tua's back. 2-9 is alive and well. We are here. And if we're not there, we're coming for you. I've been a believer in Tua for like 2 years. Just want to say, people were roasting me, and people were trying to roast me in the chat, and people were trying to roast me in the group chat, and now they're real quiet. Nobody ever talks about my wins. Nobody ever talks about my victories. I was talking about Tua last year, bro, because I saw what the problem was. I saw the offensive line was the problem. Tua, offensive player of the week, by the way. Shout out to the left-handed wonder. I gotta represent for our left-handed brothers out there. Went out there, did his thing. This game was a ton of fun. If you get a chance to watch the replay for it, this is the only game you can only watch one game. I was just watching Dolphins Lions. It was a lot of fun, and you got to see the Lions actually look like the Lions. Offense and defense and all. Defense looked terrible. Offense looked fantastic. They got this. I mean, 31-27 is not a deceptive score. They almost won this game. The Dolphins got the last possession in this one, are able to ice it away. But you know what happens when you have a bad defense, right? When you need it to step up the most, they typically struggle. Oh, look at that. Motherman X, also a lefty. Lefties unite. You know what time it is. I don't throw a football left-handed, I will point out. I throw. Here's a weird experience for everybody. I bat left-handed. I shoot a basketball left-handed. And my primary layup hand is my right. But I shoot left-handed. I hockey stick left-handed. I said baseball already. Throwing a football right-handed. Feels way more natural. Mechanics are down perfectly. So I'm one of those people. But I write left-handed. I am left-handed, like truly and purely. Plant foot. Best plant foot. Probably left. Feels like left. Trying to think too. Yeah, no, everything's left-handed, like outside of my like choices of how to attack and stuff like that. Anyway, great game between Miami and Detroit. Detroit takes the L though. Miami moves one step closer to, being what we all think they can be. One, they're going to be a playoff team. They're going to need to get every single win they can get, because guess what? Somebody got to be the wild card team. You know what I mean? Somebody got to be the wild card team. And I think this is also the first game that the Dolphins have used one quarterback in all 4 quarters. So, turns out continuity helps. But yeah, they went out there and they did the thing. They've been out there killing the game, man, and the Dolphins are just getting better. Their defense, I didn't feel like they generated a ton of pressure in this game. Also felt like, there was a couple of times Xavier Howard got he got beat a couple of times in this game. But yeah, the Lions have all the talent in the world, and they just got put together. Hopefully Dan Campbell gets the opportunity to do it, because I think that every time you have to hire like a new coach and everybody has to learn a new offense, it slows down the development of individual players, because I get it. Getting blanked 2 weeks in a row early on in the season is bad. It's a bad look. And on top of that, their division is tough because the Vikings are just not going to lose. Like, they just keep not losing. So they're only, if you want to be a playoff team, your only hope is to be a wild card team. And that's going to take double-digit wins. And that would mean they would have to run the board from like here on out. And that's asking a lot. That's asking a lot for a Detroit Lions team that, once again, struggles to defend. The pass rush is not there consistently enough. Their run fits not necessarily there. And then the secondary stuff, like the zone choices. We've talked about this before, right? Like, their method for supplementing the fact that they cannot defend all that well as they are like top tier. They run the most man and they blitz the most, or they blitz like the fourth most in the NFL. That's their move. Anyway, ladies and gentlemen, I gotta go help my friends. I gotta go be a good friend, especially considering I might be a bad friend tomorrow, depending upon the situation, depending upon what happens. I appreciate everybody who came through and checked out the stream. And stuck with us the entire time. Hit me up on Twitter, FB_playbook. Hit me up on my other Twitter account at the Ashton J. The Broke Boy Pod is the podcast Twitter account, and basically the only thing that happens there is that it tweets out the podcast link when we go live on Spreaker. Don't forget, you can check out the show on Spotify, iHeartRadio, Google Podcasts, Apple Podcasts. If you want to leave, oh God. If you want to, I just got a message that my first game tomorrow has been pushed back to 10 o'clock. So we're on the path to having the tournament canceled. Anyway, love every single one of you guys. Drink water, wash your hands, wash your ass. Be kind and do good. Later.